Good evening. Calling the school committee to order Thursday, May 9th, 2024. First item is the statement to be read regarding Zoom technology and recording.
Good evening. This meeting will be recorded and will be posted to YouTube and other social media platforms. By participating in this meeting, you understand that the recording could contain your video stream or your audio stream, including images of yourself or anyone in the room with you. If you choose to enable your video or audio device during the meeting, as well as anything or anyone else that may be in the background, could be recorded. The recording could also include any opinions you contribute and anything you say about yourself. On occasion, chat within the meeting could also be captured in the meeting recording. Therefore, anyone attending the recorded meeting may have aspects of their personal data recorded if they actively participate or not.
Thank you. Roll call for attendance, please.
Dr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps,
Here.
Mr. Willanen,
I am here too.
Ms. Garvey, who's not here, Ms. Cartier. I know she said she might be a little bit late. She was going to join us via Zoom.
Okay.
Mrs. Chamberlain? Here. Ms. Muck?
Here.
Alicia?
Yep. Ms. Chafee? Mr. Wiggler?
Here.
Mrs. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Nutter?
Here.
Mr. Whitelaw?
Here.
Ms. Coviello?
Here.
And Mr. Chairman?
Here. First item is approval of minutes. A vote will be required. You have first one was April 11th. You have in your packet, you sent earlier. Move to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any potential corrections?
Who made the motion? Lee. Oh,
Lee and Deb seconded.
thank you.
Any corrections? Deletions? Any omissions? Seeing hearing none, roll call for acceptance, please.
Dr. Allen?
Abstain.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Abstain.
Mr. Willanen?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Muck?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler? Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And I see that Ms. Cartier is here.
Okay.
We're approving the minutes of April 11th, Ms. Cartier.
Abstain.
Thank you.
And next is approval of minutes for Thursday, April 25th. So move.
Second.
And same, Lee and Deb. Any potential questions? Corrections? Deletions or omissions? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Dr. Allen?
Same.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willanen?
Same.
Ms. Cartier?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Muck?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Same.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. I know we had a lot of folks absent today. Thank you. And before I go to the student advisory, if there's no objection for my colleagues here, I'd like to do the new business item. Approval of music trip, Disney Spring 2025. Any objection? Well, do it. Okay. Lieutenant.
Tony, are you presenting or is Isabel?
Fellas.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So we're here with Tri-M, who's the Music Advisory Council and has spoken to you a couple of other times this year about approval of trips to Worcester and New York. So continuing on, we've been hard at work planning a trip for next April or next March to Disney World. A great competition or performance opportunity and workshop opportunity for our band, chorus, and orchestra members. We've been working with the ROTC to alternate trip years because a lot of our students have overlap with ROTC in music. So we wanted to ensure that they'd be able to go on an ROTC trip and a music trip alternating or have that opportunity if that was something that they were interested in. So this trip, we're looking around the second weekend in March of 2025. The Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, starting March 6th. It would include visits to all 4 Walt Disney World parks in Florida, which would be a very fun opportunity for all of our high school students who'd be interested, as well as some workshop and performance opportunities, learning some Disney music and hopefully getting to perform in the parks. So it would be a great educational opportunity to allow us to really come together as ensembles because we don't always get the opportunity to really see how well the other ensembles work. I remember when I went on the New York trip last year, I had never really gotten to see how amazing our band really is, maybe to take it for granted because I was singing in the choir. And listening to them play, you're just blown away by the talent that we have at our school. So being able to really have fun as well as learn something, and I'll go to Disney World, that's a pretty awesome trip. And one that we've been working on planning for a while. We're still brainstorming fundraising ideas, probably similar things that we've been working on before, Krispy Kreme donuts, the standard. But it would be a wonderful opportunity. Our prices now are between $2,000 and $2,200, depending on how many students sign up. We would hope for more than 30 to have sufficient ensembles for our performances and things like that. Of course, the more the merrier, but that's something that Tri-M has been working towards for a while, a larger trip like this. So this proposal is very, very exciting to us. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, Dr. Allen,
Move approval with the usual provisos.
is there a second?
Sure.
And Lee second it. Any further questions, comments? Dr. Allen?
Yes. Isabel referred to this. I think the band came in, when they went to New York last year, the band came in first and the chorus was up near the top. So this is a great reward. I think for the kids, they work hard at this, they do pretty. The younger ones sing from them elementary to middle to high school. Tony and I talk about this and just progress. Wonderful. And the quality of our music department is really quite good. So I think this is a wonderful thing for them to do.
Tony, just a question, not really to do with this. Does the music department, do you guys have like a history of what you've done? I mean, there's some place where somebody could go and say, 5 years ago, I heard that, the group won this or did that. Is there some place where you all have a history?
I mean, we keep our display case on the mezzanine that has, our history, different trophies or different awards that we've given out to individual students. We have some, there's not like a hall of fame kind of like they have downstairs, but it's similar to that as you could get. We do have some posters from past performances that they've done in Chicago and in Washington DC. So we have those sort of things, yeah.
Yes.
And then quick question, Tony, over the years on the trips and those opportunities, what's the range of how many students attend?
We haven't been on a really trip that's this big, I guess, financially and
Yeah.
wise. Probably, we were trying to remember the other day, I think it was 2014, maybe prior to that. And so some of the things that we're trying to be really mindful of is like cost, kids being involved. We're a small school, so kids being involved in a lot of things. That's why I've been talking to Captain. We're trying to go over to the sports seasons. The drama club does the METG festival, which is the first weekend in March. I know the ROTC Ball is the weekend after, just trying to do all of that to kind of give our students the most opportunities they can. But then, we're really fortunate that we have our Pro Musica group, which is our parent support group, and they are just, always happy to support the kids. When we went to New York City in March, they sponsored the extra meal that wasn't included in the trip. And so they were able to give each student $25 so they didn't have to pay anymore, And I know that we've been talking just kind of about things that we were going to propose at school committee.
Yep.
And so they have an idea of what we're planning, and they've already said, well, what if we try this fundraiser? We do this. So we have all that parent support as well. Which is really, a great thing that we have on top of the kids already in Triam that do all the work, a big chunk of the work. So.
Good. Dr. Allen.
Yeah, there's a great history of music in the town. The band that plays in the summer up there, Mimo, and what he did back in the 70s. There were 4 levels and we were maybe 3 levels, maybe even on the bottom, I'm not sure. But John played in the same college band as me. Would take them to the top level. And he won, what would you say, Tony, 4 or 5 years, 6 years in a row, something like that.
Oh,
Pretty amazing.
The music work that was done here was just outstanding. And there's been that history of it. Tony's a good example. Beth Bryant is a good example. These are, Julia Tuttle is a good example. These are all people who came through our music program, went to college, did very well, and came back here.
Yeah, three out of our 5 music teachers are Quabbin alum.
3 out of 5.
Yes.
And that's where I wonder, because, had Dick here 20 some odd years. And I get my history lessons, my Quabbin history lessons from him. And there's stuff that he'll say, 15 years ago, blah, 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 and throw names out I'm not familiar with, but they sound like they did great stuff. And I guess I sit here as a history guy thinking, do we have a history?
Yeah,
I'm not just talking
yeah,
music, I'm
yeah.
talking a lot of things. I'm
Yes, other
talking
things.
ROTC, where we have all the, for years we're going all kinds of stuff. Can somebody go in and say, hey, 10 years ago, we did this or that, or.
Like a book of institutional.
Well, you know what I think, of Game of Thrones. And where the dragon people can go back and say, oh yeah, in 1,000 years ago, so-and-so Dragon did this and did and they would go through all that history because it's written there. And it's great. I know, Tony knows the history, or some music people know the history, and Dick knows the history, but a lot of us don't know any of that history. And it's, I would hate to see us lose that. Not just us, somebody 30 years from now.
No problem.
I'm just wondering how, someday we may have to look and see how we wish to.
How we- Right.
Cheryl recently shared with me a graduation program. Was it 2005? 2005, and it was the 40th anniversary of the district. And in the graduation program, it had sort of a history like you're speaking about. So sort of interesting. And of course, we have our annual town reports, but they're generalized, you know what I mean? We have things like that, but it'd be a great project for our kids.
It would be.
Yeah.
It would be. A number of kids, I mean, a music kid could decide next year, okay,
Right.
this is gonna be my project for the year, and a basketball kid could do something,
Mhm.
a rock
And arts, right?
And it could be handed off. It doesn't have to be done all in one year. It could be,
Correct.
here's how far I've gotten, and it would take a lot of research, maybe interviews. I mean, it would be a great project.
And poetry. When Jimmy Bester was here, we had maybe the best poetry center in the country. We had kids being published.
Good. All right, any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps,
Yes.
Mr. Willian,
Yes.
Ms. Cartier,
yes,
Mrs. Chamberlain,
Yes.
Ms. Mock,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Nutter, Mr. Nutter,
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I get it.
The kids want to go to Disney.
Okay, so thank you for the presentation, both of you, and the information. And we have some other things that will be bubbling up from this too. So look forward to report, as you know, look forward to that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Student Advisory Council.
So we are going to share what's been happening in the post-grad program. So this year, we thought we'd do it a little bit differently. Mr. Devine, I'm sure will want to elaborate, but Teresa Boucher, our technology integration specialist, worked with Ashley Roy, who's the program director, to create a video so the kids could highlight some of what they've been engaged in this year. So Jess is going to bring that up for us.
I don't know why it's not making singing. Hang on one second. It's probably, do you know what the,
We need Teresa.
no, I'll just grab Andrew. Here. Next to Andrew. Andrew's going to help us with the music this in
Okay.
1 second. I need to share the audio. Okay.
We're just doing that.
And the audio.
Share sound. There we go. All right, we'll start at the beginning.
So that's just a small peek at what they do. And if you get a chance to visit them on a day when they're in at New Braintree, we're always happy to tell you about the work that they do. And Mr. Devine and Miss Roy have been amazing at setting up those internship opportunities for the kids and making sure they get there and they have success and, you know, they feel valued. So I don't know, Greg, if you want to say anything else.
Yeah, I think one of the terrific things that we see happen here is the internships have become much more individualized to the kids. And because of the resources that exist now, you know, one example is the fact that there's vans that they have access to. Before they were really relying on outside source to with those vans, and it was very confusing. But now because they have two vans in the program that they use, they really can get the kids just about anywhere. So it's a buzz every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you want to see them, they're always there on Mondays, and they're almost always there on Fridays. They really are amazing, proud of themselves, and they come in the morning really looking forward to going to their internships. We have one particular young man who every day comes in, I hear about what his work is today, and at 8:30 he's changing from his sweats to a shirt and tie, and off he goes. So they are really, really happy and proud. So thank you for all the support you've given them over the years, especially now. You know, with transportation and other things, it's made it terrific for them.
I see there's some raised garden beds out there now too.
Yes, they just actually facilities, thank you very much. Facilities is, you know, they are terrific in terms of supporting these kids. Like last month, we told you about the fact that the kids built 2 picnic tables, and now they one of the facilities guys, a couple of facilities guys yesterday put together those raised beds. They have someone that's coming in tomorrow and Monday to help them figure out how to plant things and how they can, hopefully they'll have a garden. So they're really, you know, they have a lot of opportunities in the number of years that they're there. And they don't generally look forward to aging out. They really like it, and they're very thrilled. Again, you know, we said this last year, to be in their own space. And it's worked really well.
Any other questions? So there's about a half dozen spots
In the program?
in the placement, how many businesses?
Oh, between a half a dozen and 8
Okay.
businesses that they work with.
And then next year, do you have any potential leads for any other business that might be interested to work with us?
So we do a lot of outreach to the community in terms of that, and we do constantly have those conversations. Ashley Roy is amazing in terms of getting kids and introducing places. And, you know, one of the challenges, not just with the internships with these kids, but for internships in general, is our geography.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough. I mean, if you look at where some of their internships are, a lot of their internships are outside of the district. You know, so that right now they're going in 20 different directions. And I think I don't know how many more kids are coming to the program next year, but I think usually if there's 2 or 3 more kids, Ashley will definitely reach out to try to individualize those kids.
Good.
So it's kind of a fuzzy answer, but.
No, I mean, again, thank you for the work, the effort, the time. We're, you know, shoring up the transition program. You know, we've done a lot of good outreach and work in that perspective for the post-grad students. And you're right, aside from building the skills set, it's also the socialization. It's the vocational technical, it's the relationship, it's the expectations. So it really is community-based learning.
And one of the things, you know, you say that makes me think it's one of the programs that we're also working with CAPS on a program at Monty Tech on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday afternoon, where 3 of our kids and one of our recent kids that aged out are doing more career development there around retail and technology. So our kids definitely are able to access a lot more resources, and thanks to, you know, John and the special ed department for providing transportation for those kids in the afternoon to get them to Monty Tech.
Right.
That gets them home. They go from 3 to 5, 3 days a week right now. And that will go through the rest of the school year.
Fantastic.
Great.
Anyone else? Thank you.
And next we have Nick and Isabel.
Nothing to report on at this
Wow.
I like it.
I mean, our final meeting of the year is in a few weeks for the State Advisory Council. I wanted to add on to the post-grad things that if you are, or if you ever want to meet some of them, I'm work with some of them on the unified track team, and our final home meet is next Thursday at 3:30, I think, against Narragansett. We have like 12 athletes and about as many partners. And it's a super awesome program it's great that we have here, and we have a few post-grads on that as well. We also had our track senior night last night in the gym because it was pouring, which was a little sad for them, but I think they still had fun. Prom is this weekend, so all of the high schoolers are very happy about that and then anxious to come back to AP testing. Otherwise, a great end of the year, but yes, definitely come check out our spring sports are in full swing. And it's a great, very fun time of year. Everyone's outside all of the time. And also my horticulture teacher asked me to remind you about the plant sale, whenever that is. She said, tell them that there's gonna be plants for sale in a few weeks. So I'll have more about that whenever we find out, but we're hard at work on that. And
Make sure you send a list over to Central.
yeah, I'll have her.
I'll like it.
Yeah.
She'll get it out to us.
Oh, yeah. But
And there'll be, we'll see you in June. So even though you will be graduating, Nick, I'd like you to complete.
You're
the
still
year.
expected to come back.
We'd love you to complete, love you to complete the year to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Our Barry members better watch out. He might be a
Uh-huh.
opponent someday.
That's right.
I've got a lot of dirt on.
Okay, thank you. Administrative Superintendent of Schools, Superintendent's report.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
I do too many things at once.
So Carrie Vassar, our Director of Teaching, Learning and Support, is not here tonight, so I'll speak to her section. So I hope that this aligns with the MASC training that we had around my goals. So I'm still sort of putting the goals first so you can see the work. So just around communication, some things that are new, you're gonna see a article in the Barry Gazette. I think maybe today. Is today Thursday? Today. So Cheryl and I met, and Mr. Deschamps came as well with the Hardwick FinCom. I met with all of the staff this past Monday. So I started to hear, every once in a while, teachers reach out at this time of year. They're nervous about their positions. They hear that the budget is not, great. And I thought I wanted to just be able to talk to the staff personally and say, it's not great, but the sky is not falling, and here's where we're at. This is our current reality. And I sort of stressed to them that anyone at this point that was affected by any of the cuts that we've made to the budget that I had spoken to. And also reassure them as we went along, if there were going to be more potential cuts, that we would try, to speak to them ahead of time so they could do the best to plan and so on and so forth. So that was Monday. I did it in person at the middle high school level, but I did a virtual meet so I could have all of the elementary teachers at that time. There were a few questions. It was very quiet, as you can imagine. So it felt like not a great way to start Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. But, I think I got some feedback after that they just appreciated sort of knowing where we're at. We had our last district safety team meeting for the year. As you know, we've been meeting monthly with our police and fire chiefs. We really wanted to debrief our recent bus situations with them, and we did not have a great turnout. However, through the process, we identified just some things that we could put in place when we're using our vans. So when our athletic teams are using our vans, we realized that we didn't necessarily carry lists of the student athletes and if they had any medical issues, and that if we had a situation, it would be really great to have that on a clipboard. So Kevin and Lane have already drafted something up so that we can start including those in there, and our coaches will be able to just kind of update as they go out who's present and who isn't. Kindergarten informational night will be next Wednesday. Miss St. George is still on medical leave, but I'll run that. It'll be a virtual night, 6 p.m. It's really just to introduce our incoming kindergarten parents to the screening process because they can be really anxious about that. And our kindergarten screenings actually start the Friday before Memorial Day. They go the week of Memorial Day, and we even go into the Monday, Tuesday after. You know that I've been working with leadership teams. So our equity team is finishing our book study. And we are going to identify what are our next steps for Quabbin. So part of the work that I wanted to do with them this year was deepen their understanding around, equity and what that means for us as a district as we look at some of our policies, procedures, systems, things like that. So our last meeting will be held in June, and we'll identify steps for our work together next year and how they'll take a lead on that. We also have our future leader meeting where this is ongoing because it's just a little bit more time. So we will have a 3-day session in July. And at that point, they're each going to identify a project that they'll work on throughout the next year that they can get hours of credit for serving an administrative role. So that will help them get their certification down the road. But it will be focused on goals, and a big part will be data collection and decision-making. And, ongoing working with Sheila on my mentoring. And I think every day something comes across our listserv about budgets and end of the year and things like that. So there's a lot of that happening. Another thing that we've really talked about is trying to create efficiency. So I just wanted to let you know that right now I am continually reviewing our enrollment numbers with the budget the way it is. We want to make sure that we're well prepared if we need to have classes that go up in size or down in size. So we're looking at that carefully. Our CAPS collaborative has asked to rent 2 additional spaces at the middle high school. So we've in the works with that. The facilities department is getting those rooms ready for them. They'll start using those over the summer. We did have a visit. I don't know if Peggy, you want to talk about this under new business or not, but I'm just going to mention we had a visit with Greater Valley Virtual Academy. They're interested in possibly renting some space over in New Braintree. And Nancy Landry and I attended a job fair at Oakmont. There were probably 20 vendors. Most of them were school districts, but Desi was also there, as well as trying to think, Martha's Vineyard was there. I mean, you'd be surprised by all the folks that were there. What I will say is I think it's a hard time to be a teacher. If you're an English teacher and an elementary teacher, everyone who crossed our paths was looking for English jobs or elementary teaching positions. We went with a list of positions. We were able to gather a lot of resumes and some names. Even though we may not have a position available, there were some interesting folks. So we took that. We don't have any leads on anyone for the positions we have right now. But we did, acquire quite a few resumes. So that's great. This week has been Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. Huge shout out to our teachers and staff and all the work that they do. I will say that our principals have been really great in organizing different things for their staff this week, along with their PTOs. So I was over at OCAM yesterday, and they had an off the hook truck for lunch for the teachers that was sponsored by the PTO. I know up here at the middle high school, they had an ice cream truck sponsored by Country Bank. Hubbardston Center School, the teachers decorated all the doors. The PTO decorated all the doors for the teachers. So it's just, never enough, as I say, but we're super thankful for all they do in our district. There is a picture. I don't know if we moved it. That's okay. But recently, and this is the article in the Barry Gazette today, as a matter of fact, but recently a team of teachers attended a Project Lead the Way training. So you might be familiar that we have Project Lead the Way, which is a curriculum in our middle high school, and students who take high school Project Lead the Way courses can get college credit for taking those courses. So we have a cybersecurity course, we have principles of engineering, and they're really great courses. And our students typically have started in 7th and 8th grade with Project Lead the Way, but Project Lead the Way offers an elementary curriculum that is amazing. It is all experiential learning, hands-on, and it's aligned with the standards. So the 1-8 Foundation funds grants for this curriculum work. And so we applied for a grant for all of our elementary schools. We were awarded the grant for all of our elementary schools. And we have 2 STEM teachers that teach across the district. They have a rollout plan where they will teach one, what we call a module, Project Lead the Way module, in each grade level this year. And next year, they will teach 2 modules in each of our grade levels. So now we will have a full vertical progression of Project Lead the Way from kindergarten through 12th grade. And I can tell you that we had a great day at this training. I went with them and they offered us one of the challenges for a 3rd grade module. And our STEM teachers who are really excited about doing this were like, I don't think we applied for this module, and they were all nervous and they looked it up and then they're like, nope, this is the one we're getting. But it was a challenge to design something with a wheel and an axle that moved a speaker. So there was like a small speaker like this. And it worked you through the process of drawing your design, collaborating together. And then what I really think the teachers appreciated about it was it showed you how to differentiate. So if you had students who quickly finished that design, what were the prompts and the next steps that you give to challenge them? And if you had other students that needed more time or weren't quite getting it, what were the prompts and guidance that you gave them? So it was really fun. Trisha came with us, and we had teachers from OCAM, like I said, both the STEM teachers work across the district, as well as Hubbardston and Ashley Cranston came from Ruggles Lane. So I expect that we'll be sharing more about that program with you next year. There's an intensive training for them over the summer, but it's amazing. So Carrie's report is just sort of an update. We're starting our summer programming planning for credit recovery. The good news is at this point, we feel really confident that we have less failures than we had last year at the middle and high school. We believe some of that is due to not just the credit recovery program we ran in the spring, but also we now have some intervention and back on track rooms that seem to be really helping students, and Isabel's shaking her head. So if she has anything to add from a student perspective, I'd love to hear that.
I actually just started tutoring in one of the back on track rooms for.
Great.
And the staff who work in there to help coordinate, I've never seen a tutoring room so organized. They have lists of students and what they need help with. And they'll say, okay, what tutors can help with ninth grade English, or what tutors are really good at logarithms, who can help with that? So it's very, very organized. Those back on track rooms are a lifesaver for some of those kids. So they're wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. We're also running an Acceleration Academy. That's the 1-week intensive academies on math and literacy. This year, we're holding it in Hardwick Elementary School. Carrie has the PD plan already outlined with her teacher leader group for next year. We're offering specialized professional development for our special educators in visualizing and verbalizing. It's a literacy program for students that are struggling to learn to read. And field trips are getting underway. So you should be seeing and hearing that. And that's just a photo from the media center recently. Mr. Jablonski was super excited. I happened to walk into the media center for something and he grabbed me, which if you know Mr. Jablonski, you know, he's not, well, I mean, he's outgoing, but anyways, he was so excited to talk about teaching and learning and everything he was doing with the kids. They were doing a escape room, but he didn't just tell me about the escape room. He told me about all the things that led up to the escape room. And it was really fun. He's working closely with Miss Mitten, our media specialist. And it was, you know what? I love to see teachers engaged. I love to see kids engaged, but I love to see teachers engaged. And he was jazzed up. Kevin.
Over the vacation, we were able to complete the emergency lab projects at Ruggles Lane. We removed all the front hedges of the building at Quabbin, planted all new beds. Sewer road repairs were all complete. Middle school winches were installed. This week we met with track company Record Tan to go over the condition of the existing track. The track was installed in 2019, but the warranty is up in August. So we just wanted them to review it to see if there was anything else that we should be either doing now to maintain better and or anything that could be covered under warranty before the warranty is up. So we're just waiting for that review. We're continuing to work on with National Grid on replacing some lighting in Cam, Hubbardston, Ruggles, and Quabbin with new LEDs, with getting the incentive through National Grid directly. That's about it.
Great.
Beautiful. Any other questions for Kevin? Quick question. I know this was a while ago, Kevin. The well issue in Hubbardston that was across the street, I think it was a year ago, or whatever it was. But is there anything that ever bubbled up after that? Or is everything okay with the pump piece?
No, that part's all set. There is a few other issues that are on the table for the town of Hubbardston.
Okay.
As to the well system. So the pump is across the street and then goes underneath 68, and goes into a holding tanks. The holding tanks underground, there's a few issues with those with pumps that they're running fine right now, but they're at their end of their life. So we brought that to their attention. In the next 2 years or so, they should be looking to replace those pumps. On the oil tank side, so the underground oil tank.
Yeah.
There was a few things that came up from an inspection that we had done last year that has been recommended that they be repaired. The time frame on that was by 2027 from the DEP. We've presented that to the town of Hubbardston and told them, that they have to be aware of that and start planning accordingly to get that done. But as of right now, everything is functioning and running okay.
Okay, thank you. Mark.
They want credit for the term bubbled up.
It's asking. No.
And I think Andrew is next.
So we are finishing up the MCAS second session. The elementary schools will be done next week, which will give my staff some flexibility in their coverage. We still have some tests to run at the middle school and the high school, all the way through the end of May and into the beginning of June. We've been working with Charter. We're now actually into the physical implementation of the new internet and wide area network. They've pulled all the fiber from the roads into the schools. We are waiting for them to schedule all their splicers to come out to actually put fiber optic ends on that we can integrate into our system, and then we'll start receiving their equipment. So we are actually ahead of schedule for the July 1st cutover, which is good news. Over the April break, we did replace the copier fleet and got the new copiers in and configured, and there was no downtime for any staff, which was great. So we don't have to worry about that for another 3 years. And then in the last month, we've closed 205 support tickets for a total of 2,595 since the start of school.
Thank you. Cheryl?
I believe in your drive is the end of year financial report audit that was done. As required by DSE regulation, our end of year report has to be audited each year. There were no findings. The report is in a new format. So it's a little bit more complicated than it has been in the past. That's because we have a new audit firm that bought out our old audit firm. They will be in the next few weeks to do the FY 24 preliminary audit. I've heard from some other districts that have them that they will be asking for more information than we've seen in the past. And they're expecting us to make flow charts of all of our processes. So I'm not sure when we're going to get that done because our payroll coordinator has resigned as of tomorrow. So Stacy and I will be processing the payrolls for the rest of the year, of which we have 9 in the month of June, including the first one in July. And then the auditors will be here on the week of August 12th. Also in the drive, I think just put the Moody's review for us.
Yeah.
Once again, we have a Moody's rating of A1. So for your knowledge, this rating indicates obligations are judged to be upper, medium grade and are subject to low credit risk. You'll see, as our auditors told you in a number of years, that the OPEB contributions are a part of our Moody's report now. Since last month, we issued two new procurements, one for septic and grease trap cleaning. They were released May 6th, and that will be due on May 15th. And one for rubbish removal, single stream recycling, released on May 7th, due May 16th. Although rubbish removal is exempt, we did this as a formality. We still have a couple of procurements that are out and projects that haven't started for various reasons. And we think we'll have 3 more going out for floor replacements. And there's another one that's escaping my mind.
Gym floor, dance room floor.
I had to get 2 new boxes of yellow binders because I've gone through all of my procurement binders. As you know, the Senate budget was released. The numbers remain the same as the House, both for the $104 per pupil in Chapter 78. Universal free lunch is the same as the governor's, which means it's not really fully funded.
Yep.
Rural school aid, however, was funded at 15 million in the Senate budget, which is what we received this year was 15 million. And it's 7.5 million in the House, so that will go to conference committee. Regional school transportation remained the same. Dr. Marshall was in here this morning, and she's saying that Mars is working very hard to get an amendment on the Senate floor for regional school transportation. That means a lot to us. We're only at 80% right now. We really need that at 90. Also, when the cherry sheets were released today, we lost $701 in charter school reimbursement. So you'll see that later as we do a presentation on next year's budget. It just doesn't get any better than this year. So we're hoping that budget amendments will be good to regional schools. There are no new grant reports, but they're all listed there. And since our last school committee meeting, we have had bi-weekly payrolls 22 and 23, weekly payroll 42, 43, 44, 45, and accounts payable 75A, 76FQ, 77H, 78B, 79A, and 80B. Oh.
So warrant signed. And any other questions? Any questions for Cheryl at this moment? Seeing and hearing none?
We're on to John.
We've been looking at some of our specialized programs over the last month, relevant to the type of transition and referrals to those programs. And actually earlier in the year, we had spent quite a bit of time working with our SOAR classrooms to actually develop a program guide that would essentially list the vision for each program and also entrance and exit criteria. And we've kind of found as we've come across some issues relevant to now, students are either referred or transitioning into a new program, that this will give us an opportunity to step back and look at what the program guidance has been for each one of those programs over the years and update and develop these program guides for each one of the programs. So our goal is to develop, again, guides for not just our SOAR classrooms, but also our next programs, our new grade 3, the post-grad program, and also our therapeutic classes as well. Something else I'd like to mention is grant funds that we received earlier in the year to help us with the new IEP develop process. And part of that grant is also to help us in writing basically our IEP goals and facilitating IEP meetings. So recently we purchased rights to a program called Goal Book. Goal Book is basically a way to align our goal writing and our IEPs with the state standards. Now, that's significant for all of us because a lot of times people write growth goals for students, which look at kind of like a level of progress over a course of a year's worth of time. So essentially, if you've got somebody that has, say, a 3rd or 4th grade reading ability, and you write a growth-based goal for that student, you expect by the end of the year, you're going to be somewhere along the upper 4th grade into 5th grade reading abilities. And that's fine if they're in fourth or fifth grade. But if you've got a tenth grade student, the fourth or fifth grade reading ability, they're never going to work towards graduation goals if we don't actually write our goals to be more standards based. So the software will help us to actually write those goals so that they align with the standards and get us into a mindset that that's really how we should be performing, relevant to writing our goals on a yearly basis. And what we're hoping to do with this is, and Aspen actually already has this feature, is as we write these goals, we can put them into a goal bank as a future resource for other folks that will have the standards in this goal bank, and also with an exemplar of how the goal should actually be written in case we cannot afford to actually repurchase goal book somewhere down the line. And one of the other things I wanted to mention is the CPAC awards ceremony that happened here last night. It was actually a terrific turnout. I think the CPAC chair and the secretary for the organization were pleasantly surprised. I believe there were over 30 individuals that were actually present. And they recognized 29 different staff members in different categories that they actually set up to pass out certificates of appreciation for each of the staff recognized last night. It's a really nice event, and of course, a nice way to recognize the hard work of our staff.
Absolutely. Any questions for John? John, just a quick follow-up. So the gold book, is it gold book? That what it's called? So that will help in alignment purposes, it sounds like.
So you'll be able to go into Goal Book, a teacher in the district. There is a limited amount of licenses that we have for this.
Okay.
But they'll be able to go into Goal Book. They'll be able to look at what the child struggles with from what they know about the child, align that with the standard. And then once they actually pick the standard, it'll give them language as to how to construct the actual goal for the IEP. And then at that point, it's a simple cut and paste into the document, but also opportunity to individualize it for the student and not just canned text.
Beautiful.
Greg.
Okay, so I'll try to be brief. We had a college fair this past week on Monday for the first time in many, many, many years. We had over 80 colleges that were here on Monday night. And it was pretty successful. Colleen stopped in at the beginning of that. It was terrific to see her and have her see a lot of the kids kind of poking around and looking at the schools. Our post-grad program, you saw what they do in terms of their expanded opportunities and locations. And I just want to make you aware that they'll be having their second annual townwide yard sale on Saturday, June 1st. Last year it was a great success, and they were able to raise a lot of money to do their social events and their activities. And they're hoping to have it be just as successful this year. So come and join us on June 1st. You might be able to pick up something kind of cool. As far as virtual high school AP STEM opportunities, we're offering that to our kids again next year for the courses that we're unable to offer at the high school. Some of those courses are things like Calculus BC, Computer Science A, and Environmental Science. So STEM courses that we either don't have the resources or the personnel to offer, our kids can still access that. That's a program that's funded through the state. And right now I have about a half a dozen kids that are interested in doing that next year. As far as our internship opportunities, they continue to expand for all Quabbin students, particularly the Innovation Career Pathway students. We've begun a relationship with the Work-Based Learning Alliance, an organization that's connected. It's in Dover, Delaware. It's connected with the state. And they are getting funding from the state to provide our students with paid remote internships they can do over the summer. They have 4 or 5 different opportunities over the summer. Right now, our Innovation Career Pathway kids are connected to that and have that opportunity. And at the beginning of next week, I'll share that with all of our students. So all of our students could have that opportunity. It pays $15 an hour for 2 100-hour internships. And then there's a couple other ones that are, 7 to 14-hour internships. We also continue to work with local partners to develop relationships that allow our students to work alongside Mass Hire, and we've contracted with Visions Internships to develop project-based work in our Innovation Career Pathway classrooms for our kids in their senior year. Summer STEM internships will be funded through Mass Hire. One thing that Colleen, I know this is something that we talked about last year, are the education internships don't appear to be funded this summer.
Oh.
So the kids, so we had a great resource last summer with kids that were able to assist us in the summer programs at no cost to the district, and that does not appear to be in existence for this coming summer. For Innovation Career Pathways, we're introducing our eighth graders to Innovation Career Pathways by sponsoring a field trip for all of them to see the Worcester Bravehearts baseball game in early June. This is to connect baseball to education, and we'll make the connection to business and information technology and other things. And that will be totally funded through the 419 grant, so there'll be no cost to our eighth grade students. And that's what I've got. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Greg?
If I can just say, so the college fair that Mr. Devine put on it was hard for me to tear myself away.
We're having a good time.
I was having a great time. But there were 80 sort of colleges and universities, and they were set up alphabetically. And we had kids and families and kids from other school districts coming in, and it was and we had our own kids handing out bags and making sure they kind of knew where to go. But it was so much fun to hear them talking about their future plans. So, what is it you're interested in, and how do we point you to a college that might offer what you're looking for? And it was really fun for me in particular, just to see the kids and how they interacted with other adults. So some kids came independent of their parents, and some kids came
Gotcha.
with their parents. We even had a rising ninth grade student come with his parents, which I was like, wow. And they had lots of rationale why they were looking now and things that they were thinking about. And it was just great. So I just have to say to Greg, thank you for doing that. I know that it was a trial for us, and hopefully they will choose us as a site. So, if they say Quabbin was a great site, we had a lot of foot traffic, then we'll be able to continue. We identified a few things we thought we could do a little better, but this is sort of their on the road show. They do this a lot of places. They have a system, but I could not believe the number of schools that were there, schools that I didn't know anything about. But it was great. And Innovation Pathway, what you didn't talk about, Greg, was sort of the new partnership with the liaison that's going to help.
And that's the Visions internships. So I mentioned that we're starting to work with them. So they've worked with our partners, and now they're going to start working with our kids to develop some leadership with our kids. So, you can talk more about that too.
I can. So I attended the meeting, and again, it was really exciting to see, but it feels like a piece that maybe we've kind of been missing. So this organization specifically does this work where they work with places where students will go and intern, and they work with our intern, and they think about what are the connecting skills that kids need to be able to be successful in that environment. And what do companies need to understand about having kids come into their environment? So rather than, and I think it's really interesting, the woman who facilitates is very focused. She's very high energy, and she's very focused. So as industry partners are saying, well, we're thinking we could have them do a little of this and a little of that. And she's like, no. We need to have a goal. We need to have a project, right? So kids can be more successful if they have a project and they know what the end, result should be. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if that makes a difference for our students and our industry partners. So thank you for all of your work on that.
Thank you.
And then our last report is from Mr. Myville, our Director of Athletics. So we had signing day for all of our students that are going to go off and play sports in college. And then, as Isabel said, all of our spring sports are up and running, and unified track. I cannot agree with Isabel enough. This is a super fun event, and I think next week's going to be a beautiful day. So if you can get out there, please join us. It's you just feel so good when you leave there. It's a lot of fun.
Good. Thank you for the extensive report. Much appreciated. Not only the richness, the updatedness, and then the divisions of what's happening. Anything for the superintendent? Teacher Advisory Council.
We don't have anyone here.
Okay, subcommittee reports, administrative review. Audit. Budget.
I have a couple comments before I actually turn this over to Colleen and Cheryl. They've both been working hard to identify both additional reductions in potential revenue sources. Primarily the use of, and you'll hear a little further on, reduce of rural school aid, $360,000, and a technology stabilization fund, $147,000. Concerns are really not eliminating, the ESSER funded positions, which are the key to maintaining progress for our students. The progress has been achieved to bring students back to, maybe not all the way, but back to pre-COVID levels. The use of counselors and aides, et cetera. Another concern is, budget wise, the increase percentage of students with IEPs in special ed program. And I think I heard numbers that went from like 22 to 24% or 23 to 25% since COVID. So we really don't want any additional slippage. So we want to maintain the programs that are really addressing this. The use of additional revenues also, I spoke to, Cheryl and Colleen earlier today. We'll also hopefully make the assessment numbers a little more palatable, to at least 4 of the 5 towns in our district. This is in your package. I believe you have revision number 4 budget. And I'll turn this over to Colleen and Cheryl. One question I didn't ask this morning when we talked about it was we used the rural school aid. We had kind of targeted that for some building improvements. And we're gonna have to figure out a way to address them more critical.
Yes, yeah, it is, and I'm gonna let Cheryl you did a great job introducing it, so thank you for that, but it's not perfect. I think we want to be clear about that, but we've done it in the past. So Cheryl's gonna kind of give you historically how this has worked out. And then we typically have used our rural school aid more recently for things like purchasing the vans. We're doing a lot of our floor projects with it. But this year, we're proposing that we use it to put into our operational budget. So Cheryl's gonna go over all that.
So in the recent past, especially FY20, when we were closed down in March of 2020, we had a budget reserve of over $1 million because we were not in schools. We chose to reclass school choice expenses to the general budget to close out the budget, but free up $1 million in school choice revenue. And what that allowed us to do was we transferred one expense, if you remember, it was retired teachers' health insurance, to school choice so that we could use that money and not need to wait for E&D to be certified on that. That helped us get through a rather tough budget year as well. And so Colleen and I met and we're like, well, what can we do? Even though we don't know, number one, how much rural school aid we will get. And I have to drag this out because Jess left and I wanted to share my screen. How much will we get? Because the House says 7.5 million and the Senate says 15 million, which we got this year. So we took a look at our history, and if I can share my.
Yeah, we'll get it up.
There you go.
I'm not sure that I know how to do that. Okay. You think I got. So when I was looking at the history,
Okay.
make that any bigger for you. Looking at the history, just 6 short years ago, rural school aid was 1.5 million. It's now tenfold, and now we've become that dependent on it to get things done in our district. But it's not in your packet, I'm sorry, Peggy, if you're looking for it. So in FY19, when it first hit the books, Quabbin received 8% of the total. We have always been about the first or second district in priority group number 2, which means we have 11% or greater student population density in our district. So it goes to 11% in one priority group 1, gets a little more money, and we're first or second in priority group 2. And you can see, well, if you can't see, we got about 7% in FY 20, 7.1, 6.5, 6.9% of the total based on our density of population. So what we thought was, even if we're not gonna get any less than 7.5%. That's not how the budget thing works. The House budget's in the books, at least 7.5. Now they're going to go to conference about anywhere between 7.5 and 15 million. So we said, what if we look at the 7.5 million and about approximately the same percentage that we have gotten over history of rural school aid? And we bounced down a little bit from 7 to 6%. That's 450,000. Then we started playing that numbers game of plugging in. What if we cut this? What if we cut this? Where are the assessments going to be? And we landed about where Hardwick said they wanted to go. And then we had a meeting with Dr. Marshall. We said, okay, what are you guys thinking? And she said, well, if you keep it around 5%, what just happens that I can get it to 5%, get Hardwick to 4%. But we'd have to use $360,000 of those reserve money. It's a gamble. Number one, you don't know what else is going to happen down the street. But what we don't want to do is dismantle the district to impede that progress, as Mr. Wiggly was saying, in those certain programs. And also, why would we pay people unemployment? So we pay them not to work for 60% of the money that they could be here to work. So we're willing to take a risk and have that offset to rural school aid. And hopefully it'll come in at 15 million when the House and the Senate.
And then if it gets
conference.
right.
Okay, so what that does is we reduce our budget by that $360,000 because that expense has to be posted up directly to rural school aid. You can't take grant funds, which is considered really, and put it into the general fund. You have to put the expenses out there like you do with school choice, like we do. E&D is the only one you can put into the revenue source for the general fund budget. So for those of you that weren't here at the last meeting, we did identify increases and decreases. The proposal number 3, up with proposal number 4. We had at the time of $32,000 worth of $32,000 worth of reductions as we had to increase by $115,000 for the bus contract. We had the electric contract came in at 23% and 28% higher. So there's things we had to add as well as to make some reductions, and it came only to $32,000. And then with adding the $360,000, you look on your appropriation control report that is in your packet. Our budget would drop to under 40 million to 39,669,827. Reductions this round of $392,000. The overall impact of our budget to the towns would be 1.184 million or 3.08%. The revenue projections is also in your packet. Fund that budget. And at that level, Barry would be at 5.09, Hardwick at 4 even, Hubbardston at 9.46, Braintree at 0.6, and Oakham at 3.8. We're hoping that this will give us the opportunity to get our budget approved at annual town meeting and not have the need of going on a 1/12 budget and then going back to the board and then go back to special town meetings late in the summer to have our budget approved. We don't want to go any lower because we're not sure of how much we're going to get, and we also don't know what's going on down the pike. We are very tight on our special education tuition budget. We're hoping that will remain where it is.
Yeah.
You never know when other expenses are going to come up, but we felt comfortable, I believe, at this level.
Transportation may go to 90% maybe.
I was shocked again, once again, shocked. That Friday before the Senate budget came out, they're all ranting and raving and patting themselves on the back that the tax revenue came in well above the predictions, well above, but yet there was no new money for education. So Maureen is hopeful through her contact with the legislators that there'll be an amendment on this. And that's what we have to hope for. We have to hope for that. If we hope for that, I'm not sure that we want to keep this $360,000 of rural school aid, we may want to revisit that amount. Because that'll be like very little increases to the towns that are just gonna make next year that much worse, that much harder.
Dr. Allen.
What does the difference of 15 million versus 7.5 million mean to us?
Well, it would mean that our $450,000 estimate would go to $900,000. 7.5 million is half of 15, so we estimated at 6% of the total would go to Quabbin at $450,000, so double that is $900,000.
So we get 900 instead of 450.
Yes.
What would that mean for these numbers here?
Oh, we would not use any more of that for this budget. We would use rural school aid for other expenses.
I gotta know. Thank you.
Okay.
We have a motion. Move to adopt 25 fiscal year 25 budget in the amount of $39,669,827. Projected revenue sources include $17,139,362 in chapter 78. $1,150,704 in regional transportation reimbursement. $26,116 in charter school tuition reimbursement. $960,942 in district revenues and reserves, including $750,000 from excess and deficiency, E&D, to offset member town assessments, and $10,000 from excess and deficiency, E&D, for a contribution to the OPEB trust fund. In addition to these projected revenues, this budget requires the use of the technology stabilization account in the amount of $147,174 and $360,000 of rural school aid.
There a second?
Second.
Devin had a second. Further discussion, please.
So Cheryl, you're obviously. Oh. Basically, you're saying that 450 is our floor.
Is our floor,
You're
yes.
you're pretty
Well,
confident.
like I said, the House budget is in the book, so they can't go back and make it lower
Okay.
lower now.
So 450.
So when the House and the Senate don't match on certain things, they have to go to conference committee, so they can negotiate between either of those levels.
Any other? Just want to make one quick comment is, thank you for looking, going out to the towns. You're at the FinComs, you are listening, we're listening. We're trying to make adjustments where we can without impacting programming. And as Mr. Wiggler has talked about, progress and sustainability for growth and enhancement of student achievement and wellness and health and safety. So I know, Superintendent, you're not elated about this budget as such, but you'll make it work and any adjustments, and thank you. And I rural school, you put that up, the information for the past 6 years. Rural schools aid cannot be an addition, a budget addition. It's got to be hopefully a formula and put in there and not like a grant. We get it, we don't get it type thing. And I know there's a lot of things going on, that transportation, and I know you said you were shocked, and you said that 3 times, and that's not, you definitely say things, I know twice, but you said a third, and I'm like, you were so shocked that there were no adjustment on regional transportation.
Well, over 29 years, usually when the governor's budget would come out, you throw it away because it's always the lowest amount. And then you get more in the House, and the Senate was really good towards education. This time, it's all equal. And that is shocking. It's all equal. But it was even more so when they came out and said, honestly, pat themselves on the back, oh my God, we've not only met our levels, which they were whining about a month earlier.
Yep.
Oh my God, how could we have made this mistake? And so much more money came in over the projections, and still there was no adjustment in the Senate budget for education. That doesn't usually happen.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I see that now, as you stated. Barry, down to 5.94% for Hardwick, 9.46 for Hubbardston. New Braintree, 0.60, Ocam 328. With a total overall of a 5.7%. Seeing no other questions, comments, roll call, please.
Dr. Allen.
Yes.
Excuse me, Dr. Allen.
Yes.
Mr. Marsh.
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps.
Yes.
Mr. Boulanen.
Yes.
Ms. Cartier.
yes,
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Ms. Mock.
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Nutter.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark. Central office? Collective bargaining,
Nothing at this time.
buildings, grounds and safety,
Nothing.
policy review and reform, October, student services.
We met tonight, but John pretty much covered it. We talked quite a bit about the transition, from NEC to SOAR.
Yep.
And I think more information will come out later about that. And the new IEP format coming out next week.
Okay. Technology.
Our extremely large community, subcommittee met today. We're gonna get a bigger room. Sorry, bad choice. Andrew covered most of it, but some updates on things that we've touched on before. The East Force that we brought up in previous. Obviously didn't happen in the spring. There's been no lights as far as the job as a coach. But they're gonna try again in the fall. Vape sensors, Andrew told me that they're looking at a $31,000 budget for 5 years. That's to cover all 5 bathrooms, all 15 bathrooms, I'm sorry. But he has said that there's been a positive effect of the use of the sensors as of now. And the last thing is the technology department has been working with curriculum in regards to budget to trim any outliers, nothing to affect curriculum in general, but just the outliers that are over, like duplicating services and stuff like that. So that's it.
Beautiful. Ad hoc school district configuration?
No, we haven't met. You wanna?
We can do it anywhere you want here. Oh, do you want me to talk about it?
Well, because Peggy and I were with you, we're on that subcommittee.
Right.
Even though we didn't officially meet.
Right.
Why don't you-
Sure. So I think maybe a week ago, John was working with a virtual academy. They actually have 14 of our students across the district, and the academy and the student and his family were interested in transitioning into the post-grad program. So John happened to meet their director over at New Braintree Grade School, and as they were talking, the director said, "What a beautiful space. Would you ever consider leasing any space in this building?" So I've had a couple phone calls with him, just trying to understand a little bit more about the program. I reached out to Peggy and Lee, and Mark, just to say, how do we want to kind of go about looking at this? And one thing that I felt was important is that we really saw the program in action. Sometimes people can describe something to you and you don't really know what they're looking for. So basically, it's a virtual academy. They have a center where they bring their high school students in on Mondays and Wednesdays. It's about 12 students. And then they bring their middle school students in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Friday, they do professional development, or they might have meetings, different things like that, but it's adults and the students aren't in the building on Fridays. And we got to see sort of the program in action. So they rent a space that is really like part of a mini mall, for lack of a better term. It's probably in total as big as this room, wouldn't you say? And so it's a very fluid space. They have a large conference table with a few chairs. They have a large television like we have up front. And then they have cubicles for the students. So just like we used to have the cubbies like this, and they're dispersed around the room. And in the morning from 8 to 11, the students are online and they're doing their virtual lessons. Then they have a little bit of a longer stretch during lunch where they have their lunch and they might go outside and do some things like that. And then they go back into their virtual lessons in the afternoon. It is staffed by one teacher and one para. There are times when, depending on the student needs, they may have counseling sessions. So they might have counselors on site working with the kids. They might have occupational therapists, physical therapists, things like that, that they can't provide virtually. So they're very interested in the space. Cheryl and I kind of looked at, well, what's the least that we charge caps? And, they wanted a number before they even sort of committed to us. And, we said it was a soft number. I talked to Andrew about the tech. I talked to Kevin about the impact to facilities. And so we kind of worked our number around that. After visiting, I think we have a couple more questions. They seem to spread a little bit. And Peggy and I were actually talking a little bit tonight that, it's like, well, could we also use the gym and could we have access to the cafeteria? So I think we have some more things to work out before we come to any sort of agreement, but it just is sort of in the first stages.
So basically there would be a school inside a school. They have their own school committee and everything.
Right. That's that virtual.
Yeah.
Are they housed in Greenfield?
Yes.
Yeah, they're housed in Greenfield, okay.
So do our students, I didn't ask you this, our students go from this district to Hadley or to Greenfield or both or?
I'm not certain. I
Okay.
didn't ask that question. And some students come on site, some don't, it sounds
Okay.
like. And it sounds like that changes even day to day and week to week. But they would be transported. So they arrive at 8 and then they're picked up at 3:15 in the afternoon.
And we talked a little bit too, because they have a full-time nurse on site, and could we share services kind of thing where we have a nurse person? I mean, so I think a lot of things are up in the air as to what Colleen's gonna come down to.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lee and Peg, for attending and listening and.
It was pretty, he's pretty devoted
Right.
in a conversation.
Sure.
He's really devoted to what he's doing. And the whole project, and pretty much from at least our conversation, the numbers are stable. So it's not like they're going to balloon up or
So he
something.
kind of put a max of like, what, 14 or something?
Right, roughly that, yeah. So, it seems like a good opportunity. And obviously the superintendent, she asked the correct questions, and Becky and I were doing like the side questions there to see if we could catch him on anything. But no, he was good. He's very impressive that he's really for his kids and these kids, and, can he do something better for them? That's what he's looking.
Well, and I think they're looking to expand, so they want to bring in more of Central Mass. So that's why they're kind of venturing out this way.
Yeah, it sounded like they were at capacity where they were at, and they were primarily serving Western Mass, and they really wanted something more for Central Mass.
Okay.
And they like the idea that the post-grad program, was also on site and.
Do they like the space?
Yes, our next steps are, I want to, I asked them for some policies, some handbooks, some
Okay.
things like that. And then, I think if we can get closer to an agreement, we would like their superintendent to come out with them and see the property and do another walkthrough and just agree upon what are the areas of use? How do we create a schedule? What's our fee gonna be?
And drawing the selectmen, because I also approached them about it as well. And I think if they come on site, they'd want to meet with them.
So would Mrs. Worthington be the administrator for our?
Yes, she would. Yep. Mhm. Well, she's not for the program.
No.
So she oversees the building, so they oversee their whole entire program.
Okay.
Soup to nuts, you
But
know?
you did talk about like issues if they arose and how they would handle them. And I think those are all things that Colleen wanted answered, you
Yes.
know?
Okay.
Would they be on the same format as far as snow days and all kinds of variables?
I was just kind of curious as if it would take away from, you know, the work she does with our students, you know. Shouldn't.
I think it's a totally separate entity.
Okay, good.
Just like we do with our CAPS programs. That's how we're viewing it.
Okay.
Okay, unfinished business. So stay tuned and we'll know more soon. No unfinished business, public comment? School committee concerns?
You go ahead. No, you go.
You had your hand up first.
Damn it.
Dave. Recognize you, Dave.
Choice.
Put his hand up first. Take a second. Do I do that?
All right, okay, Lee.
Okay, so, I've been doing on this for a few months, so I'm gonna bring it forward today. And it has to do with how we handle failing grades in the last semester, quarter of the school year, and how that pertains to our kids being able to do either sports or extracurricular activities. So let me pose a situation. We have twins, Joe and Jane. They're going to take sign language, second semester. Third quarter, they get through. Joe fails the third quarter. Jane does pretty well at C+. So Joe can't do any, he's on his baseball team. He can't finish the baseball team because he failed. End of the year, for whatever reason, Joe does very well. Now Jane fails fourth quarter. However, because she has done so well the third quarter, she passes the semester, she passes the course. So according to the way we set it up, though, the district sets it up, but we set it up, is that she cannot partake in any activities or her favorite activities come next autumn. So when mom comes to me to complain and say, listen, both my kids took the same class, they took the same teacher, both of them passed the course, each one got an F, but one got it in each different quarter. And now you're gonna tell me that my daughter can't partake during the fall season in, the sport or the activity she wants to? And the answer is going to be, no, she can't. And she's going to say, wow, that doesn't make sense. Why is that? I guess the answer would be that, well, the school committee, you see that your child passed the course, but you didn't pass it the way the school committee wants you to pass it. And I think that's that would be a cold response. And let's jump to a second situation. Now Jane fails the course. She takes sign language, fails it second semester. So she knows now she can't do anything in the fall. So she goes through the summer. She's has a couple good friends. She's a ROTC kid. She's been aiming the whole time to be to be a leader on one of the squads for the next year. She's been doing this since maybe seventh grade. And now she's sitting there the whole summer saying, I really can't do what I want to do this fall because I failed this semester course. She has her two best friends that she grew up with since elementary school. They're also on ROTC. They hang out together. Maybe they can work at Camp Putnam together with the little kids. And now the friends are sort of like, we're really sad because, are we going to upset Jane because she knows she can't do ROTC? We used to do some practicing in the summer. Jane's a little like standoffish with her friends because she doesn't want to upset them because, maybe they want me to practice with them, but I really don't feel like it because I'm not going to be able to do this in the fall. And so these 10 weeks go by. And so I guess I ask, my question would be, from a social emotional point of view, is there anything positive that comes out of taking that scarlet F and hanging around that kid's head for 10 weeks in the summer, going into the autumn, knowing that they can't do something they would really like to do? Because I can't see it. I can't see anything positive that comes out of that. And I understand she fails that semester course, but so what? She failed it. The F stays there. Why would they be punishing those kids come that autumn? And if you don't take it from a social emotional point of view, let's take it from an equity point of view. So we took that equity course during the COVID timeframe, 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. And I thought it was a great course, and a lot of us came here to do it online. And one thing I remember, because a picture's worth 1,000 words, and one thing I specifically remember is the little cartoon with the 3 guys and the wooden fence. And the tall boy is looking over the fence because he can see over the fence. And then you get the second boy, not as tall, maybe there's a knothole he could look at or if he jumps up, but he really can't see as well over the fence. And then we have a third boy who's shorter, who can't see anything over the fence. And then the second cartoon is the second boy is given a short step ladder so he can now see over the fence. And the third boy is given a little bigger step ladder so he can see over the fence. So the message being, the boys are obviously not equally the same height, but now there's equity so all 3 can see over that fence. And I look at it as the way we handle this F situation. And I think, okay, so the tall kid who sees over the fence, he got all good grades, you know, he or she, if you want to put a girl in there. And so they could see the next semester, the fall semester, no issues. The second kid is maybe the kid who fails one of our core courses. Now, if our kids fail math and our kids fail English, and correct me, Colleen, if I'm wrong, we have summer school for these kids so that they can rehab and pass the course. So I'm thinking that, okay, so for the second kid, for kids who fail a core class, we're saying, here's a step ladder. We'll provide it for you. You still have to climb it. You're the one who has to pass the course. We'll provide that step ladder for you. And then to the third group of kids who failed just a 1 semester course, a non-core course, we pretty much say to them, find your own step ladder. And I don't see how that's equitable. Now, when we did, you know, I'm looking, you know, thinking of the way we've gone through the years, and I sort of placed my kids when my oldest guy, he graduated in 2010, we were a 4x4, right? Kids did 4 classes, okay? When my next guy graduated in 2015, we got into the trimester, 5 classes. When we did our negotiations with the teachers, this is when we went through the whole 6x7, and there was a lot of negotiation on this. There was a lot of discussion. At school committee meetings, the administration came and said, here's what we're looking to do. Here's what we want to do. Got to give the kids more stuff to study. And, you know, just a greater rigor of what they want to do. But I never remember a discussion, and I always, I think at every negotiation and every school committee meeting, I never remember somebody saying, okay, we're loading the kids with more stuff. Can that affect something? Will that affect them on doing the other stuff they really like, whether it's sports, whether it's music? Because we're loading them with courses. We're looking at it the same way when they took 4 courses 15 years ago, as now they're either taking 6 or 7 courses. And I think the equity is that if we're going to give them these courses, and if they fail, then if we're not going to provide them with a summer schedule, which I know we can't because we have so many classes, we can't just say, okay, let's find somebody that can teach, you know, sign language in the summertime so the kid can pass. And so I know we can't do it. But if we can't do it, is it fair to say to them, you failed that course, too bad, you can't do what you want in the autumn? Because the kid who failed the English or maybe failed math, they can take the summer program. If they pass, they can do what they want to do in the autumn. And it's almost like we're looking at our kid, looking to a kid and saying, hey, you know, you're going to fail the course this semester. I'll give you a choice. Fail English, which is a 5-credit course, or you can fail sign language, which is a 2.5 credit course. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, logically, one would say, well, you don't want to fail the 5-credit course. But why won't a kid say, you know what, I want to fail English? Because if I pass the 2.5 credit course, I can take English summer school, pass that course, and I can do football in the fall. And is that the way we want to project and say, hey, yeah, that's the way we want our kids to think? I really don't think so. And so the way and part of the way I look at this is that psychologically, and I personally, and I saw it in my kids and I see it in other kids, when the school year ends, and this is the way I grew up and went through middle, high school, college, when the school year ends, it ends. You got the F that year, you got to live with it. If you have to take summer school, you do it. But you have 10 weeks through the summer to think about that. And come junior year or senior year or sophomore year, you can say, you know what, I really screwed up last year, but I'm starting a new year and I want to do this right. And I think there's a big psychological effect to taking that approach. And if somebody says to me, well, Lee, you know, did you take psychology courses? I could say no, but I know how society works. And in our society, we do this whole thing about recuperating ourselves. And the easiest answer is like, a year has 365 days except the leap year. And if Dave says to me, you know what, I'm gonna pick a day out of those 365, I'm not gonna tell you which day it is, but I've only been swimming 2 days a week for the last year. I'm gonna start swimming 4 days a week on this day. And if Dick says to me, you know, I've only been in the gym 2 days a week, and on this day, I'm gonna resolve to start going to the gym 4 days a week. And I might say, well, for this certain day, pretty much every year, I stop having alcohol until my birthday 10 weeks away. And that's what I do it. And it's New Year's Day, in case you don't know that. And what difference does New Year's Day have physically from almost any other day? From December 31st, does the sun rise 2 hours earlier and set 2 hours later? No. Do the swallows fly from Capistrano on that day and make everybody happy? No. There's nothing there except the psychological advantage that society takes. And all adults, if nobody in this room has ever done it or seen anybody that does it, more power to you. But so many people say, on that day, I'm changing what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do it. And it's all psychological. There's nothing physical about it. And yet we're saying to our kids right now, you know what? You end that school year, you've got 10 weeks. Kids mature in those 10 weeks, and I've seen it in my kids. There's a great maturation process. When we go on the school trip down to DC, I've had teachers say, that kid in 4 days has matured so much. And so it's sort of like when that school year ends, let it end for the kid. I know you can't do it for everything. I know obviously for the core classes, we need to do it. But for these semester classes, why are we burdening our kids with doing that? Because we're taking like this, a zero-sum value of an F, like, okay, all Fs are the same. And really all Fs aren't the same. The F that the kid that says, yeah, screw it, I don't want to do this class, I'm just gonna blow this class away, and that's my F. But then there's the kid who maybe it comes from a one-parent family, and maybe her mom's in the hospital now, and she's the one that has to take care of her younger brother and sister and coordinate this stuff. And maybe she's the one that gets the F. You can't tell me those two Fs are the same. And the thing is, we can't police the Fs, which I know we can't do that. We shouldn't punish kids for those Fs. That's what I said.
Closing argument.
Really, I think it's the wrong way to do things. And we're the ones that manipulate the F. I mean, the F is gonna be there. I'm not saying change the F. But why burden these kids through the summer? We're the ones who manipulate how we handle the Fs in this situation. And if we manipulate it, we can manipulate it in a positive manner. You know, we don't have to, the whole thing is negative. And especially for sitting there 10 weeks of the summer. I mean, and then to say, oh geez, I'm not gonna be able to do what I want, you know, this first quarter of the falls, because I gotta think about what happened 10 weeks ago and let it weigh on me the whole summer. I just think it's an unfair thing.
You have.
I have lots to say.
Okay.
First, I want to say thank you, honestly, because we've also recognized that this is problematic. So when we switched to the schedule this year, some of the things we did talk about was we felt like one of the benefits that would be from going from a trimester schedule to a semester schedule was that students were going to have the same teacher longer. We anticipated that they'd be more successful over time. And we also implemented a grading change of giving students a flat 50. So if you're familiar with any of the research around grading, you know, it shows that if students get zeros, that it's almost impossible for them to be able to pass a course, right? They have to work twice as hard. So those are small things that we've done this year, and we wanted to sort of watch it over time to see. So what I can report out is two things. That at this point, we have less failures than we've had previously, so we're happy about that, but we're not happy with the number still. We also know that we had a different impact this year with the semester schedule versus trimester schedules. So if students were participating in athletics in particular, it did not hit them as hard as it does with the semester. The semester comes right during basketball season, and so we had 10 basketball players who became ineligible. And it's not just athletics that's impacted by this. So The middle high school team has actually been working on this and they do, it was actually what I was gonna bring up at the end of the night. So I would like to actually request either time with the policy subcommittee. I'm not sure it belongs there. This is something that's in the handbook. There are several changes that they would like to put into the handbook. We have to get that handbook revision to our lawyers in June. And some of it is around eligibility, some of it is around grading, and it's all based on exactly what you're talking about. So there are some updates and proposals that they would like to propose to make changes for our students. I'm sorry, I wrote myself some notes, so give me a second. So I think grading is one thing that will make a difference. Also, you mentioned this idea of credit recovery. So over the summer, we do offer credit recovery. And we've done that for 2 years now. We also offered it midway through this year. And our students, grades can average out over time a little bit differently than when they were on the trimesters and they ended, because now they're sort of at that half year point. And I think one of the things that you allude to, but didn't necessarily call out, is this idea of eligibility. And so that is that currently in our middle high school student handbook, it says if you fail one course, then you can't participate in any clubs, activities, sports, so on and so forth. So that is everything from drama club to DECA to NJROTC, after school events, all of that. And we agree with you. We think it's not motivating to kids to lose those opportunities. So without having it right in front of me, I'm going to just give you a sample. And I know Principal DeMarias is on the line with us, but a sample of the language is instead of having a failure and losing all privileges, you're allowed one failure where you can still participate in your activities, but you have to attend mandatory tutoring. So we offer tutoring with our NHS students, our Back on Track room, all of those things. If you fail 2 courses, you lose the opportunity to play or participate, but you can practice and you still have to have mandatory tutoring. So that's just a little snapshot of that. I will, I'm gonna own something. So last year, our middle high school administrators wanted to implement this last year. And because we were switching to the schedule that we were with semesters versus trimesters, I felt that we should let that play out and see how it change things for our students. So this is a year later than they're looking for, to be perfectly honest with you, but I wasn't comfortable sort of doing that. I felt like I just needed more information and data. So this is where we are. I thank you for bringing it up. It is a problem. I will tell you that it's probably, people have mixed feelings on it, but it does feel like the right thing for our kids. I think the pieces we still have to clean up are what are the activities and clubs. So there's some differences. If I'm a band student, because I take band as a class, I can still participate on all of those things. I go to the concerts and performances and things like that because it's part of my grade. But if I'm a DECA student, I can't necessarily participate in that competition, even though academically I've prepared essays and PowerPoints and things like that. So that's the refinement that we still need to do. But we would like to bring that to a subcommittee so someone can look at what the middle high school team is proposing so that we can get that language into the handbook in front of our lawyers' eyes and have that approved for the start of school.
And I got Mark's hand too. We approved the handbooks and we look at the school improvement plans too in June. So that.
August.
In August, we did it by August, okay. And then, we could have the administrative review in central office as we combine that subcommittee we could do that and have a discussion in there and help in that perspective. I think that would make sense. And you're right, if we have that policy that we have, and we have to look at the policy, we can address that in the fall, make any adjustment there. But you
No.
were already looking at this.
Yeah, and it's not a policy.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
A separate policy. It's in the handbook, and I
handbook.
think that's where it belongs.
Okay,
The other thing in the handbook, and it's a side, and we reference and we say for more information, go to the MIA requirements.
yeah,
I know those are the, you know, athletic requirements. The handbook is covering both. I think that that's kind of a false trail because we don't really follow, we're stricter than MIA number one. So if somebody goes to it is thinking, oh, wait a minute, it says this, it could be confusing to somebody who really pulls it up. I'm not big on a lot of the MIA requirements.
yeah, potential conflict too. Okay, so Mark,
Yeah, I guess my only question. You said that who reviews the handbook changes in August?
we do.
School committee does. You approve them, you
We
vote the
approve.
handbook.
It comes to us, but we could do it, we should be doing it at a subcommittee level.
There was a
And then-
time when the school committee didn't. Do it. You know, back in the early 2000s, I'm not so sure the school committee was aware of all the changes that were put into a handbook before it was sent to the parents. And that's how I came into this position.
Gotcha.
Based upon a handbook issue, but the bottom line is,
And we did go to subcommittees on it, you're right after that.
so if we have an August meeting, we'll approve it, the handbook changes then? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so we want the subcommittee to look at it.
Which we'll do a couple of weeks, if you think.
Sure.
And I mean, our handbook changes I've already gotten them from middle high school. So once the subcommittee looks at it, if they give feedback, we may need to make more changes. So we would anticipate no later than August, we need the school committee's approval of all of our school handbooks,
Correct, and we.
even
we've done that.
elementary.
That's right.
Yes.
So we've been
Yeah.
doing that. Okay, anyone else? Swyla?
Lee, I think you said it perfectly as far as all of that goes. The only thing I honestly have to add, because you pretty much covered everything, was when, as of right now, when a kid sees an F in Aspen, they look at that and then they realize, like, for example, oh, I'm playing baseball. They see that F and they're like, oh, I have a 28. There's no way by the time grades come out, I'm going to get that up. So then even more of their grades start slipping because they then realize, okay, if I have this one F and I can't do anything, then that means I shouldn't be bothering trying in all of my other classes. So this new policy,
Flat 50 is what we call it. Yep.
so this new policy rule handbook, whatever it is, I think that would be tremendously helpful to all of those students, especially the ones who are right on the verge of being able to play or do something in those.
We hope so. We hope so. And we feel like we're able to offer more supports than we have in the past. So with the implementation of our tutors and some of our inclusion coach positions, we are able to offer more to our students for staying on track.
Good, yeah.
Nick, I know we had the big basketball disruption this year. How much of the team's time was spent helping tutor those students?
Hours, I'd say, because we spent
So it was a team effort, right?
30 minutes before every practice up. Funny enough, actually, in one of the back on track rooms, because that was also where our meeting room was for basketball. And we spent 30 minutes before practice tutoring with whoever. It's mostly all the older guys, because as we say, older takes care of younger. So it was the older guys tutoring the younger guys. And it was both JV and varsity. It wasn't just like varsity doing it. We did it all throughout the program. And we did that all year, right from the beginning all the way to the end.
And one of the reasons we wanted to sort of include in the language that they had to participate in the mandatory tutoring is because we don't want to lower our standards and have students think that one failure is okay, right? Like we want everybody to pass everything. That's always our goal, so.
Okay. Thank you, Lee. Dave?
I will be really quick and Lee, you were right. I should have went first.
I often,
I said I did it.
that's it.
Two things, I'm gonna call this kudos corner because it all my kids, so. On April 27th, Quabbin students that are in the National Honor Society, parents, friends, as well as Ms. Trumbull and Mrs. Cooley did the MS walk in Worcester. This is the second consecutive year that my daughter Kelsey has organized this, and through those 2 years, she's raised over $3,000 to go towards research and the fight against MS. And
Yeah.
nobody knows.
That's for her.
If nobody knows, this is because my wife has MS and it hits her hard, so.
Yeah.
Secondly, this past weekend, most of the equestrian world was focused on Churchill Downs. But in the collegiate atmosphere, the equestrian world was in Tryon, North Carolina. Over the last 2 years, Quabbin has sent 2 girls to that championship. Well, last year was in Kentucky, this year was in Tryon. These past 2 years, my daughter has gone. She competed last year and came in 6th. This year, she couldn't compete because she went up another level, but she was the captain of this team. And they came in 2nd in the nation.
Nice.
So that's one good thing. The biggest thing is one of our high school friends and an alumni of Quabbin competed at the individual level and is now the national champion.
Wow.
And that's Anna Bird. Okay, and she's a very sweet girl. Equestrian is not recognized a lot in this area. I don't have an equestrian team. Everything is done by the family.
Yeah.
And it's a huge commitment. More so than basketball. More so than any other sport.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's 365 days. a
No,
year.
I agree.
It's 300.
You don't have to push me.
And on leap year, it's 366.
There you go.
And there's no new thing on on January 1st. So, it's a huge thing for me.
That's
And,
awesome.
I know my daughter's extremely proud of what she has done in the 4 years. And we'll see. My guess is that no Quabbin kid will go next year. Because I don't think there's any other kids that are competing at that level.
At that level.
So. We might have one that's gonna be a sophomore next year, but.
Split sawdust still?
Oh, she's long gone.
Okay.
She's a big girl.
Gotcha. But she's in the,
She owns the one up on.
Colbrook. Yeah,
So, yeah,
okay.
she doesn't compete, she teaches,
I hear you.
so. But, Jill Poolin's daughter is extremely talented,
Mhm.
Oh,
and, I'd like to see her go far. That's it.
okay.
Nothing as exciting as Lee's.
No. And then, anyone else?
I've got one thing. Colleen referred to the fact that she and Cheryl met with the 2 members of the Hardwick Finance Committee. And I attended just as an observer and support. And something I think really amazing happened that day. There were 2 finance committee members who were totally focused on what Cheryl had to tell them in terms of and they were engaged. If you ever taught, you'd want 2 students like that. I thought that they were engaged. They asked good questions. They had prepared questions that Cheryl was able to address as she went along. And the most remarkable thing was at the end of the meeting, one of the finance committee members used a phrase that I've never heard in a positive way coming from finance committee members. And what he said to Cheryl was, thank you for being so transparent. And that word.
Was that a recorded meeting?
But you know, we all know transparent is code for reduce the budget.
Right.
So they don't care, they're not saying, but they, now, I don't know if we helped with Hardwick's problems, they certainly understood the district's problems, but the fact that they sat and they were engaged and they took in the information, and Cheryl went on for more than 2 hours. And their questions were insightful, their questions were clarifying. And there was no I gotchas, they weren't looking to attack her or to question her, what she was presenting, they just wanted to know what it was, and Cheryl really covered the DOR part, the DESC part, all the funding sources, and they were taking notes, and I thought, you know, if we could have recorded the presentation, it would have been great, because like I said, first time in 10 years, I've heard the word transparency being used in a positive way. Thank you, Cheryl.
They said something about playing Monday morning quarterback too, that they wouldn't have to do that now, right?
Right? That's- Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Wiggler.
Just one quick one. Any chance of a new cell phone policy making it into the handbook?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll get to a subcommittee on that. Just one quick thing from me. Thank you on April 25th, when we had our school committee meeting and we had MSAC training on the superintendent's evaluation. I thought that was good, not only for new members, but a refresher for others around the table. And Pauline, wanting that perspective for all of us makes, again, shared governance a reality of how we work here at Quabbin. Which again, one more, I'll work with the superintendent and with Mars. Well, I want to do one more training this year before, hopefully in June, probably in June, on the regional agreement. We know that the regional agreement, looking at the leases, that's going to be a sub piece in there. But we have new members, and we may even have a couple more new members pretty soon on our committee that last time we looked at it and did a lot of good work. We did all that back in 2016. And it's just for us to understand, walk through it and just kind of look to see if there's any, we all know that if there's any potential changes, it's all 5 towns have to approve it and everything. So I'm not saying that, I'm saying, we work from the original agreement. We should be I'm not asking all of us to know and have memorized it, this language, but Lee has been very good over the years and say with the community group that we did. But at least from a school committee level, let's at least look at our document paragraph by paragraph and just see where we're at, any potential changes, any corrections or what, I don't know. But at least it's a good exercise for us to go through.
So who would like proctor?
Well, we reached out to Mars, and we would have Mars or a lawyer, or we talked about that, to be able to facilitate,
I think,
to walk through it.
I think we've talked about 2 things though. So I think we talked about going through the regional agreement so everybody understands what's in the regional agreement. And then then a secondary process is, are we looking to go through the regional agreement to update it? That needs to be a bigger committee involving our towns.
Right, well, I was thinking because at the Cape, you know, I think there were a couple seminars where they have somebody come in and do you know,
Yes.
regional agreements, et cetera. So that's what I was wondering.
Mars
We're
would
gonna
do it.
Look for,
Mhm.
okay, somebody like that.
Yeah.
All right, so this time, Mark, I'll try not to be in the Caribbean.
Thanks. But again, thank you for all school committee colleagues here.
Are we gonna look at the leases at the same time?
That's coming up, and that's 25. So yes, We talked about this last year, last fall we were talking.
Right.
But look, we had it on our plate all year and then the budget season going on. So it made sense to also have the roles and responsibilities. We still have, I'm still working on that agenda piece, which is, again, thank you for efficiencies and effectiveness as our meetings. We've done the superintendent training, and then I think the regional agreement of the understanding that we all have is a good thing. So, thank you. Next, new business we took care of. There is a request for executive session. It's not going to be long, and then there'll be a vote to come out and approval of the superintendent's contract. So I need a motion to go into executive session to conduct collective bargaining contract negotiations with non-union personnel dealing with the superintendent of schools.
Second.
Dave, Deschamps, Lee, roll call, please.
Ms. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps.
Yeah.
Mr. Willian,
Yes.
Ms. Cartier,
Positive.
yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Ms. Mock,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson, Mr. Nutter,
Yes.
Mr. Brophy.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. Sorry, now we're unmuted.
Okay, we're out of executive
Yeah.
session, back to general session. And we have one item left on the agenda, approval of super contract.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Superintendent Muha 3-year contract effective July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2027.
Second. Oh, Mark seconded it. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, roll call.
We didn't take a roll call to come out of executive session,
Oh,
did we?
Sorry. Okay, let's do,
Shall we do that first?
yep. Roll call for out of executive session.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps.
Yes.
Mr. Willian.
Yeah.
Ms. Cartier,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain,
Yes.
Ms. Mock,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Nutter,
Yes.
Chairman Brophy.
Yes, I apologize. We would be still in executive session. You're right. So I apologize. Now we're back into general session.
Okay.
And is there one item left is approval of superintendent's contract?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Superintendent Muha 3-year contract effective July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2027.
Second. Seconded, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps,
Yes.
Mr. Willian,
Yes.
Ms. Cartier,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain,
Yes.
Ms. Mock,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Nutter,
Yes.
and Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
In Dick's honor, I say yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Roll call.